I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bozak.
Here.
Commissioner Ensland.
Here.
Commissioner Loving.
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Commissioner McCarg.
Here.
Commissioner Schnabel is absent.
Yeah. I'm here. Approval of minutes, September 14th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Ensland.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarg.
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak.
Yes.
Commissioner Loving.
Yes. Commissioners, Roseanne,
Nothing.
Angie,
No.
Jen,
Nothing.
Brad.
Lovely.
Commissioner Reese absent. RDC Attorney Clay.
Nothing, sir.
Engineer, anybody on the line? Tina.
Good evening, commissioners. Just an update. We are making progress on phase one of the Marquette Greenway. This is the key activities being the stage 3 submittal, as well as the right-of-way acquisition of the McCauley property. So we've been interacting with Glenn Peterson of SEH the past few weeks to resolve some of the issues. And so we've had good conversations today with NDOT and have a timeline for moving forward. Still pursuing a March letting for phase 1A. We were able to kick off phase 2 section of the Marquette Greenway last week. So just be aware here in town, you will begin to see construction crews out around Westport and along Stanley Street as they begin to do some of the utility marking on the 2 bookends of the Marquette Greenway Trail. So just be aware of that. You'll see more activity happening in that area. And that concludes my report on Marquette Greenway update. And tonight, under the larger agenda item, we have John Rubel here with us to give us an update on the Marquette Greenway planning process. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Schnabel is absent. First one is Michelle.
The Baker Tilly.
You want to do that now? Let's do it now. So Tina and I talked about this afternoon. We just need to make a recommendation that the town council pay the Baker Tilly invoices because the council is reimbursable from the bond funds, correct?
Yes, per what Clerk Treasurer Jordan articulated in the email, but Baker Tilly is the town's financial consultant and they hold the contract. So the redevelopment commission does not have a separate contract with them. So that is the understanding, is that authorized to pay at this level and communicate that to town council.
So can I get a motion to make that recommendation that the council pay the 2 outstanding invoices from Baker Tilly and then be reimbursed out of the bond funds when the bonds are issued?
I so move.
Second.
Sounds like Roseanne to me. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, do we have any understanding why these are April 2021 invoices and we're discussing that in October 2022? I mean, did it fall through cracks? I just curious.
Baker Tilly was, I think they were holding them back, thinking that they were gonna get paid out of the proceeds of the bonds being issued. And since that's been delayed, now they're asking for payment now.
Okay, so this is the first time they've asked for payment?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ensland,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving.
Yes. Thank you. All right, any other correspondence? Old business number 1, Market Greenway update.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, John Rublo and Environment Associates. I did leave on all of your stations to file notes from the stakeholder meetings that we had. A real quick little presentation, get you up to speed on that. So stakeholders, this is the list of everybody we talked to over a series of basically 3 days in September. The major agencies here, the major businesses, neighboring towns, as well as some local consultants and some advocacy groups as well. And the notes that you have are more detailed minutes and notes from each of these meetings that we had with the groups too. You know, some of the key, I think, takeaways from these meetings here was, so everybody we talked to is in strong support of the Marquette Greenway, from obviously your Save the Dunes groups to Lindy, Cleveland Cliffs, want to be supportive of what's going on here, recognize the need and the benefit of that too. You know, one of the things that we heard was really that how Burns Harbor is uniquely positioned with the greenways and the little Calumet blueways so close together, and tying that opportunity for kayaking and fishing to the biking, and really having all of the outdoor recreational potentials that it could. Westport development does provide, you know, some great opportunity for the urban living, bike to work potentials. And then also, as we talked to Cliffs, this could be maybe some potentials for their workforce and workforce development too. You know, embracing the Little Calumet River, again, tying the connection to the blueways here was very key with a lot of folks. The Lindy Dam too is often brought up too as a great potential source for getting to the river access. You know, kayak portage has been applied for grants for that. That is something that I think wants to continue to happen to really make sure the Little Calumet is kayakable, is not a right word, but kayakable as much as it can from Lake Michigan up into Chesterton too. You know, we met with environmental consultant Orbis, who's done some work out there too. We looked at that western portion, basically from the trailhead west over there. After subject farming, the prairie is really established fairly well out there. There are some invasive species that could take some management, but overall was in fairly good shape too. But we're starting to understand and develop strategies for if you want to look at reforestation, if you want to just manage what's there too. What are the benefits? What are the capital costs of all these different options to give you guys some decision-making tools going forward? And then, you know, leveraging Marquette Greenway just to connect the town better, you know, get to Lakeland Park, connect Westport and Lakeland Park together. And what are our potentials to getting south of 94 so we can capture all the rest of the population in Burns Harbor, connect to the Prairie Duneland Trail too. So those were kind of some of the key high-level notes. And obviously, there's more detail in the notes too. Too fast. So again, we kind of used last month and early this month to gather the stakeholder feedback, data gathering too. And then what we're looking to do is kind of basically have a draft report together for the commissioners for next meeting. We'll get that to you ahead of time. And that's going to start outlining, you know, basically the steps of this project too, which I'll touch on a little bit. So these slides are out of order. So again, why are we doing this? We're looking at the operations of the trail, you know, multiple landowners out here. We're looking at how to maintain the infrastructure components, what you need to do to take care of the vegetation, the paving, all of that. Looking at the ecology, and then, you know, expansion of other trails. And then lastly, just kind of touching on how can we brand the trail, give some community identity to this too. So again, operations, you know, looking at the trail routing and its alignment, understanding where the town is going with the consultants, so phase 1 particularly of what that alignment is going to take, understanding the multiple landowners, who's going to maintain what and how, and then kind of the uses we're starting to get into as well of, pedestrians, is there some need for some maintenance type of vehicles on these trails, emergency type of vehicles, and what type, and how, is the trail designed properly to accommodate that? And even getting into maintenance, what needs to be done on a kind of weekly, monthly basis out there. We'll give you the tools to kind of understand what's needed and then work with you of who's the appropriate party or parties to be taking responsibility for that. Infrastructure, we're gonna get down to the nuts and bolts of things, pavements, bridges, railings, how do you take care of that? What you should budget on an annual 10-year basis for kind of life cycle replacements. And then start touching on a little bit of the future amenities that are gonna be out there, maybe shelters, restrooms, signage, all of that. Ecology, where, there's been some ecological assessments done of the area. We're gonna take a bigger look at the corridors and some strategies for either reforestation, for vegetation management, what those might mean, what that looks like, cost associated with that as well. Expansion, how can we expand the greenways, connections to other parts of town, the blueways, more kayak launches, engaging the dam, and then just kind of other potentials for recreational facilities and events of the trail. And then lastly, kind of touch on, branding a little bit as part of making this an identifiable element for the community, that embrace of the green and steel here, the heritage of Burns Harbor, and how that could be incorporated in public art, events, and so forth. So again, that's kind of where we're at. Next steps here. Mr. Ensign was nice to meet with us. We're happy to, talk with any commissioners kind of one-on-one if you guys have any other ideas about the trail, questions about this process. But really our next step is kind of taking a lot of these findings and recommendations, putting it into a report format that you can read, digest, and go through some more feedback from that. So happy to answer any questions at this time, or we don't. So.
No, at this time. Thank you.
No, wonderful, my pleasure, thank you.
I have a question, but it's for Brad. Brad, how were the meetings?
Well, the one that I attended, I was the only person there, I was an outsider there. And the other one was very interesting with
The cliffs.
Yes.
the cliffs. It just struck me that there's a completely different attitude between the North Portal and the cliffs as far as community interaction goes, and for the better. And they were, at least indicated that they were going to be very helpful, or could be very helpful in the future. Very good.
John, thank you.
No, thank you, my pleasure, yeah.
Anybody have anything else for John?
And feel free, I believe everybody has my email contact, if you'd like to reach out to me separately or one-on-one, we'd be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I have one item still from our Peck Greenway report.
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
And that is the next level trail where warranty item. Reeve Riley, which was the subcontractor under Gary Up, who was the overarching construction firm on Next Level Trails, had come out and done some crack sealing along the trail. And there was a subsequent walkthrough of the trail, and the recommendation coming from our engineering staff and Reeve Riley is that our recommendation is that Reeve Riley come back and fill some of the larger cracks that were not filled and sealed correctly when they were here a few weeks ago. So the recommendation, just to be clear, is that Reeve Riley would come back to fill and seal some of the larger cracks that are in the trail that they previously just sealed. And then upon completion of that, that would conclude the warranty work under the next level project. And then that would mean future cracking will be, or, future maintenance will be the town's responsibility. And part of that is what will be addressed in the plan that John and his team are putting together.
Are these cracks still spreading? Is that why they're coming back? And have they been filled once?
No, they didn't fill the ones that they should have filled, they just sealed them. So we caught it and told them come back and fill these properly and then reseal it, and then
Because
we're done with them.
if the cracks, if the cracks are still spreading, then we're not gonna let them off the hook.
Well, they identified 3 sources of the cracking. One, which we know of and knew of at the time, which was the condition of the weather conditions at the time the asphalt was laid back in 20, I think it was at this point. And so we knew that we would be running the risk with there. And then secondly, it was of the opinion that the stone base should have expanded wider than the asphalt trail, because that would have supported the asphalt. Basically, we have an abrupt end of the asphalt onto the grass, and that's not enough structural support for the edges. And then we have some cracks that are happening, more towards the center of the trail. And those are likely a result of the reasons I just mentioned. Plus, we are having truck use, maintenance vehicles are going out. So it's our understanding we've had some contractors that are using the trail to access other areas along the trail, whether it was, construction site at the end of our trail or to do some of the maintenance work. So we need to re-examine how frequently vehicles are being used, because the asphalt and the bridge were not constructed to support, regular truck use on the trail.
So with the motion to instruct them to fill and seal the cracks that exist now. And then once that happens, the warranty work, we have to say that, eventually you have to stop and say that it's our problem now. So we're 2 years post trail at this point, it's time to do that, so just need a motion for that.
Well, okay. I will so move. We do that.
The motion is to instruct them to fill and seal the cracks that exist now, and then after that, we deem that the warranty work is completed.
Yes.
Second.
Discussion?
Who goes back to check to make sure that it's all done correctly before we're out of warranty? Like, we're not just gonna take their word that they went and did it and it's done right, right?
Yeah, so part of the part of the process will be when Reeve Riley, who's the contractor for the recreational trails, that they will conduct that work as part of the asphalt on that trail. So we would be working with the town engineer, whether that's again, I think we have SCH finalize that.
Okay.
That's the engineering firm, but I can confirm that.
But the stone base business, the gravel base, for future sections of the trail, are we learning from that and specifying that, that stone base has got to go out farther? There's no sense in repeating our mistakes, you know, or whoever made the mistake.
So that was discussed during the walk, on the RTP site. I think they needed to revisit the specs for that trail. If it is the will of the RDC to make sure that it expands wider than that the stone base expands wider than the asphalt, then we could go ahead and proceed with that as a change order. So if you want to authorize Avon Marsh and Reeve Riley to look into that for you, I can do that. And then my understanding, it would be a change order in the contract, and the town would be responsible for it. There are no grant funds to support that
So there,
additional cost.
well, okay. Our specs were not written correctly when we put this out.
It was not known at the time that the trail design and engineering was approved, you know, through the state prior to this. So this learning from Next Level Trails was not integrated into that design engineering process because it had not appeared yet. We do have an opportunity now going into construction, since the project has not started, that we could have a change order to include additional material to expand that stone base. But again, the additional cost would be.
So when the spec was done 3 years ago, it was fine, and the state approved it, but now it ended up not being fine. So yeah, I think what Brett's saying is just, let's check the next one.
Yeah.
And make sure
Yeah, we still have a
that we're
time to
not
do
going by
that.
the same original spec that ended up, that is technically fine, but it ended up not working.
Right.
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense in repeating a mistake, if we can afford not to, but, and especially, you know, the thing going right through Westport, the you know, trail portion going right, we don't want that crumbling apart visibly. You know, within 2 years, you know, because we didn't spec it out right, and because there's gonna be a lot of heavy stuff, whether we like it or not, on that portion of the trail. Anyways, would you please make a note of this so that it comes up again, so that we can do something about it. Now's not the time to do it, so we gotta,
Well, yeah, tonight you could take action to direct me to speak with Avon Marsh and Reeve Riley to consider the expansion of the stone base along the
So
trail.
directed.
yes, please.
Okay, and then knowing that at some point you'll get a change order for stone base that's expanded to meet that criteria. And then I can convey that same information to Avon Marsh on the Westport development. And then we can communicate that also to SVH for the completion of the phase 1A trail.
It's ultimately cheaper to overbuild than underbuild at the beginning. So, yes, if you can do that, that would be great. Thank you.
I would also say that I'll be documenting all of this within the report to best practices lessons learned for the Marquette Greenway and how to develop that particular section too. So.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, Porter may read our stuff and say, hey.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we better, the soil's the same, so we better look out. Yes, ma'am. Something on the floor?
We do, yeah, the NLT warranty items, Brad made a motion, Angie seconded. Any other discussion? Let's get a vote on this. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensland,
Yes,
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving,
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Tina. All right, Westport PUD update. You want to do the escrow account first? So we had a conversation via phone. It was me and Tina, Jane, and Mike from Holiday, and I think one other person was on the call too that wasn't Mike.
No, that wasn't it.
Was that it? Okay, must have been a different call. And we discussed the idea of having Jane set up an escrow account on our behalf. Do you want to elaborate on that, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, and in preparing for the master development agreement and the bond financing, part of one of the initial steps that we can take to advance this would be to establish the escrow account that would house the funds that would be used to pay for the lease bond. So this was kind of the initial step that we can take that will demonstrate to Holiday that we're ready to move forward with the bond financing, and so that's why it's being requested at this time.
So we asked Jane to do that, but Jane asked if we would please make it official by having a motion and approving our request for her to establish that escrow account.
I'll make a motion for Jane to establish the escrow account. Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Ensland,
yes,
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving.
Yes. And Tina, anything further on the Westport PUD update?
It's just that we're moving forward in coordinating activities with Holiday Property around the bond financing. So we're working to kind of tighten up some of the construction schedule, and also there's some level of coordination that we need to do with the Ready grant to make sure that we can utilize those $1 million grant funds on the project. So we're in the process of coordinating that, and look forward to coming back to the board soon on the finance piece.
Okay. Thank you, Tina. New business, anybody? Approval of claims register,
So moved. Second.
discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensland,
yes,
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving,
Yes. Approval of financial report month of September 2022.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensland,
yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving.
Yes. Good of the order.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bozak,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensland,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarg,
Yes.
Commissioner Loving.
Yes, we're adjourned. These are